as mentioned, we do agree with this. We're not opposed to further DNA testing. But again, alluding to what Ms Moana Maki talked about, it's unclear whether the legislation will have a significant impact on serious crime, considering the changes that the Labour government, the last Labour government, one of its many significant changes in the important areas, made to the law and order debate. National is proposing to test all those arrested, not just those who are charged. And the reason there is a very slight problem with that is a large number of people are arrested and not many are charged, which means many tests under National's proposed system may well be thrown out, resulting in poor use of money and police resources. And this is why I suppose that the Treasury has stated that a lack of clarity around the problems with the current DNA testing regime, along with the evidence, anecdotal and empirical, to support these, is an issue with this bill. But, Mr Chair, there's one thing I would like to talk about, and it's two very high-profile cases in the area that I come from, and this is Napier. There was a woman called Cursor Jensen who was found murdered on a beach in Napier. She was last seen riding her horse. Now, the killer of Cursor Jensen was never, ever found. This case had caused national significance. It was profiled widely. The police believe they knew who did this, but they could just never prove it because they didn't have the evidence. This case tore apart families, in some cases tore apart communities. It was a dreadful case. It was a dastardly crime. But I believe with these sorts of tools that we have around today, the Cursor Jensen trial probably would have been saved. It wouldn't have spared the anguish of her family, but at least there would have been some closure there. There was absolutely no closure for that family whatsoever, and it is still a festering sore in Hawke's Bay. The other case is Teresa Cormack. Now, we often hear about stranger danger, but I'll tell you that the one case of a young girl being raped and murdered by a stranger in the last 20 years was actually Teresa Cormack, and it was a dreadful case of a young girl being snatched. I think she was only 7, in the streets of Napier, and she was raped and buried. It was, again, a dastardly crime, the sorts of crime that we just don't bear thinking about. But her killer, I believe, was caught in the end through DNA profiling, and many years later. And so I think one of the big benefits of this law, of this Act, is that what it may well do is help solve a lot of these crimes that have gone unsolved. And I can imagine that there would be nothing worse for a victim or the victim's families than just not knowing what happened or why, and certainly not having anyone to answer for the crime that was perpetrated against a family member, a friend, or a person in the community. Like I said, I believe the Cursor Jensen case probably would have been solved because the police had what they believed the person who did this, but they just did not have the evidence. With DNA profiling and DNA collection, they probably would have. And with DNA, the police were able to catch the killer of Cursor Jensen, and therefore a very, very dangerous man was taken off the streets, taken out of our community and put where he belonged. Now, what this may well do, there are other dastardly cases that we know of that are high profile, that are unsolved at the moment, that could well be solved due to DNA profiling. But what it may also do is solve crimes, as one of my, I think, Labour colleagues, it might have been Moana Maki, or any of them who spoke very well on this bill, alluded to. It will not allow these repeat offenders, like the Parnell Panther, for example, that went months raping woman after woman, creating fear in communities, creating fear amongst female populations. It was, it was an insidious, not a gentleman, an insidious creep who went around communities committing the most heinous of crimes. With this sort of DNA profiling, that sort of person, that sort of monster may well be caught a lot earlier. That technology didn't exist back then, and therefore he was allowed to go on and on until he was finally caught. But this provides a very, very valuable tool in the police toolbox, which I think will make a big difference. But I think what it also does is it sends a very important message, not only to the people of New Zealand, but the criminal element, that again it won't be tolerated, but to the people of New Zealand it sends a message that we are prepared to go out there and protect their rights, put in place laws that will ensure that crimes are solved as soon as they possibly can be. As mentioned, there are the rights of the individual, but I firmly believe that the rights of the community and the rights of the country must come first, and we must get these monsters off the street. And if this helps, then that is fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The question is that